I'd like to invite the Foster family to make their way up to the chancel. Steve, Crystal, Iris, and Talise. And as we prepare to light our chalice this morning, we'd first like to ask everybody to rise in body or spirit and join me as we speak aloud our affirmation, which is printed on the back of the order of service and also in the chat line on Zoom. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need. For these high purposes do we unite in worship.
As we prepare to light the chalice, these words are by Christian Schmidt and Alex Coeyman.
We light this chalice for our children and youth and for us.
Celebrating the flame of faith lit in each of us.
Honoring the light each of us brings into the world.
Rejoicing in the community that we create together.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Walsh. What are your stories of hope that Reverend Walsh has called us to remember? Your personal stories. Stories in this congregation. Stories for our country. Stories for the world. This is the time of the year when we see awakening, when we see Mother Earth emerging from the cold and the dark of winter. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, Mother Earth awakens. Daylight stretches longer and longer, have you noticed? Earlier in the morning, later at the evening. Temperatures are gradually rising. Bushes and branches are showing blossoms. Early spring vegetables will arrive one of these days. As Mother Earth awakens, so do we. Perhaps you have engaged in some activity that lagged in winter. Or perhaps you've taken on some new way engaging with life. Or perhaps you continue to awaken and reemerge from all the restrictions of the COVID pandemic. Through time and around the world, humans have celebrated Earth's reawakening. Virtually every culture has rituals and ceremonies to welcome or even encourage Earth's renewal. Ancient Egyptians celebrated the return of water to the Nile River. Eskimos anticipated the first rays of sunlight after weeks of darkness. Some rites of spring even included human sacrifices, such as the composer Igor Stravinsky and the choreographer Nijinsky depicted in a famous ballet called Rites of Spring. Just as these rituals help humans understand Earth's cycles, so too people around the world have created stories to help them come to terms with the personal cycles of dark and light that we all experience. Today marks a religious celebration of awakening from darkness, being released from a tomb. Today is a day to remember and retell the Easter story. This is a story of returning to light and life after the journey into darkness and suffering that Jesus endured after his entrance into Jerusalem. This story has much to teach us. It wasn't only Jesus who suffered in this story. His community and his family did as well. Those who loved him suffered his loss. It's easy to understand, isn't it, how the notion of bodily resurrection entered this story. At death, my friends, we don't stop being in relation with someone who has passed. The nature of the relationship just changes. Early Christians remained in relationship with the spirit of their beloved teacher after his body was no longer among them. So however literally or metaphorically one interprets the Easter story, there is an important message of hope in it for each of us. This story, told every year, reminds us that we can find release from our tombs. This is a story that speaks to all of us of any ages. Who among us has not known tombs at any time of the year? Times of darkness, times of loss, perhaps even persecution, severe illness, a lost job, a failed relationship, a sudden death, or resistance and denial of what we give to others. Now, granted, our tombs vary in scope, and the stones we need to roll away are of different weights. Still, while in our tombs, we grieve and look for new ways of relating to persons and habits that we used to enjoy. Through our grieving, we may emerge from the dark. Places of darkness are part of being alive. Just as Mother Earth needs winter to recharge her seeds, so personal darkness offers the opportunity to recharge our lives. Certainly, we hope dark places don't last too long. But even if they do, may we find comfort in remembering that being connected with others in this congregation, in our communities, in our families, we are not facing the dark alone. Just as Jesus had friends walking with him during that final week, so do we. Our communities of support help us to find the way to the transformation that makes it possible to leave our tombs. As my colleague Richard Gilbert wrote, a tomb is no place to stay. This is one of the messages of the Easter story. As Mother Earth reawakens, this story reminds us that new life and hope and possibility are on the horizon. This story reminds us that the new seeds are beginning to germinate long before their stems peek out through the earth. They're in there, waiting to emerge. So too with personal and community transformation, which at first may seem invisible, germinating below the surface. Keeping faith in the sprouting of the seed brings us to new possibilities for light and life, to enjoy many blossoms, many flowers, which we will celebrate in our flower ceremony in just a moment. So, my friends, let us trust in the many renewals that are possible, any time of the year. Sometimes when we least expect it, we experience a resurrection, a new or restored relationship, a new work or school opportunity, an unanticipated refund on our taxes, perhaps. Other transformations we work at, but they are still transformations, but we know they're coming. Graduations, for example, after a rigorous course of study, or a smaller clothing size after dedicated weeks of a diet, or growing membership in a congregation after a careful assessment of habits of welcoming. So, my friends, on this day of retelling this often told story of resurrection, may we trust in renewal. May we have faith that light and life does reemerge. May we all celebrate all the communities of support and all the networks of engagement of which we are a part. May all this be so.